welcome to the Shadow-Caste. I'm Jan.
I'm Paul. And we got some. I got one. Just I'm burning on today, man. I mean,
right.
yeah. I don't know what the bees under my bonnet. So
let's hear it.
Well, so this is going back now a couple years, but he's just the guy has been in jail, and his appeal is just about to come up. And it's for me, it's an incredibly interesting case about thought crimes, which is really what this whole episode I think really needs to be about.
Here we go.
And at the same time, there's this line there that I see both sides, and I don't know, maybe you watch these many episodes, you'll see that I never side with the federal government, but in this case, boy, they have an argument, and but at the same time, I see the thought crime, and I don't know, but I'll tell you some of the details maybe, and see what you think, right?
Okay.
So let's just watch this first clip to see, really kind of get into it a little bit.
Queen City News anchor Ryan Kruger has been digging into the suspect's past. And Ryan, this investigation, it started 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's right, guys. It all happened when a man who law enforcement calls a militia extremist got into a shootout with police and died. Now, the FBI says inside that man's house, they found bombs along with disturbing training manuals that were allegedly written by a suspect from North Carolina.
Mass-scale assaults and raids, rescue operations, snatch and grab operations.
In a 10-minute YouTube video, Christopher Arthur of Mount Olive explains how to train a militia. It's one of dozens of videos on his page, Tackleberry Solutions, where he teaches things like self-defense and fighting back against what he calls a tyrannical government. In one video, he openly discusses getting into a shootout with law enforcement.
But you're dealing with a bunch of freaking kids now that are working as cops, and they don't have a damn clue what war really looks like. At some point, that's going to happen.
Yeah, so
what he said was a shootout is better than a massacre.
yeah, and you know, I mean, yeah. So this is what actually went down with this guy. So he has a small farm. They raise Doberman pinschers. They're like preppers, right? And one of the things he offers, he does a bunch of YouTube stuff. He's trying to teach people how to live off the grid, how to defend yourself, and he does in-person courses, right? So he does a course on like I'm not advocating for it. In fact, this is why I was saying I'm not such a big fan, but I still feel like there's a real First Amendment issue here. Is he's offers a course on bomb making, right? Are there any real practical reasons why a person needs to know how to make a bomb? I mean, seems like that training is available for people that work in mines and legitimate businesses where they have to blow shit up, but like, is there any good that comes from teaching a bomb course? I mean, I get this idea that, like, tyrannical governments, and you've got to, and Second Amendment, you got a right to defend yourself, but like, right, with bombs? I mean, like, okay, you got some arsenal. I see the argument for AR, right? I would be perfectly in favor of regular citizens being able to have fully automatic weapons. I think it's only right. I'm not in favor of only villains get to have fucking full arsenals while law-abiding citizens have to reload the fucking gunpowder at the top, We have to have equal access. So I see it, but at the same time, it's like, okay, dude, but bombs. So the feds being the feds, they send somebody in to pretend to learn how to make bombs. And the way the law is written, it says, if you knowingly teach somebody, it's not illegal to teach people how to make bombs. But if you teach somebody how to make a bomb who is going to use it on federal agents, then that's a big crime. Because you're aiding terrorism, right?
So if anybody in your class says states their intention to use it on federal agents, then what are you supposed to do?
Well, that's, I guess, what's perhaps at the core of this case, which, I look at it from two sides. Like, look at, as a man, I can say that if I believed half the shit that came out of men's mouths when I was alone with other men, I've met like 7 heads of secret societies, and I mean, like,
The
know,
brag factor you're talking about.
everybody has a fucking 12-inch schlong. I mean, if you believed half the shit that came out of men's mouth while they're peacocking around with other men,
Yeah, when they all get together.
oh, it's bad. And as a guy, I've learned to just, I don't even fucking listen, right? Like, I can tell when somebody's doing the peacock dance, and I'm just like,
In the words of Elaine from Seinfeld, I don't know how you guys walk around with those things.
so like, I would have blown it off. I don't listen to half of the shit, but I've had people tell me all sorts of crazy things.
So the exaggeration factor.
And also, typically, and you know, like, this is from my own life, you know, when a moment came when I had to flee a tyrannical government myself. And what I definitely didn't do was tell fucking people that I was going to do it.
Right.
One, because what, are you stupid? You're going to tell somebody a fucking crime you're going to do before you do it? And then 2, are you going to make them fucking accomplices to you now? And then you're going to make them vulnerable to being like, how selfish could a person be, but to tell people they were going to commit a crime and then make them fucking accessories, right? Like, nobody that would really be wanting to commit a crime would tell you.
And the possibility that the word's going to get out and you're more likely to get caught.
No, I mean, like, I know people that sometimes people do tell you, and I'm not suggesting that never happens, but I'm just saying, like, for the majority of people who have a fucking brain and think, like, that's not real. Like, you're not going to tell somebody you're going to do something like that. So the fact that he's telling this guy that he was going to do it is all the more reason for the guy to think it's bullshit, right? Because nobody's going to say that shit.
Right, and he's got no way to prove it.
It's talk.
Yeah.
It's just you.
And he's not required to be an investigator, a private eye.
Oh, well, yes, he is, because under these laws, the minute, according to the feds, which they've never said exactly what is the proper procedure, of course, because they'd probably like to arrest a bunch more people on this horse shit,
Yeah.
is that he's giving this course, he's teaching how to make a bomb, and the guy says something to the effect of, oh, the next time those ATF agents come back to my property, they're going to be in for a fucking big surprise, right? And like,
Well, that's pretty vague.
man, it's like some whatever, dude. You know? Oh yeah, you're going to fucking take on the ATF. Like, nobody would think that's real. Who guys talk shit all the time, like they're the fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know? But like, when it comes down to it, nobody really fucking does
And
it.
are there really any laws where the average person has to report something? I mean, they're encouraging you to use, if you see something, say something, all that kind of stuff. But really, the only people that I know of that are required to tell is like a psychiatrist if their client is talking about murder, stuff like that.
So,
it's not the average person that's required.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess because this guy was sort of teaching a course on weaponry, one could suggest that maybe he has some sort of duty beyond, like, I think the feds are trying to say, hey, if you're teaching them how to blow up stuff, like, you have a responsibility to be responsible and make sure that whoever you're teaching that to doesn't have a fucking plan to go blow fucking people up with it.
But
right?
in my opinion, the laws need to be more precise because there's so many vague laws these days that are they're purposely broad so that they can decide who to
mail and wire
indict
fraud,
and
right?
who not to.
The Smith and Wesson of the federal government, the mail and wire fraud charges, the shit you bring against all the people you just want to take out of the fucking way, right?
You got no other charge with substance.
So that being said, I feel like the other side of it is kind of true, right? Which is, imagine if you walked into a gun store and you said, you walk up to the counter and you say, I need an automatic machine gun. I got to have something that really has some fucking firepower. And the guy's like, oh, well, what are you going to use it for? And the guy says, my fucking wife and her cheating. She's cheating on me with this motherfucker. And they meet up at the top of the hill and I'm going to blow fucking holes through their car doors. And like, I think if you don't refuse to sell that guy a gun, I think you have committed a crime. I think you are fucking responsible.
But it should be in the law. It should be in the law like that.
Yeah.
If somebody expressly states that they're going to commit a crime.
So I think, in a way, like I'm arguing the other side of it, right? Which is like, yeah, but at the same time, it's like, well, you can't just have people going around, and so, but I think I've been wrestling all around this for a couple of days thinking about this because I'm like, well, at the same time, no crime was committed, right? This guy didn't do anything. This guy was teaching a course, and one of his students talked up and said X, Y, and Z. And so is there a difference between a course and going in to buy a firearm? I mean, in a way, I think yes. I don't think that those two things are exactly the same, right? I think that there's a line there where, like, if you're in a course setting, you're in an informal, no matter what course you're taking, you end up still having dialogue with the people that you're taking the course with, no matter whether it's for a professional certificate as a doctor, you're still cordial with the people that are there with you, helping to administer or taking the class. I mean, it's a social environment. It's not a transaction,
And the guy's statement was hypothetical. It wasn't like, I'm taking this course so I can go out and do blah, 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 and that's my plan. He said, if this happened, then I would do that.
Right, that's right. He was like,
hypothetical.
Yeah, if they come back.
I mean, a lot of people say that kind of stuff. If anybody ever, I've said that kind of stuff. If anybody ever sexually abused my kid, I'd blow him away. I've said that stuff.
Right. But it's hyperbole, right? It's just, yeah, you feel like you'd probably do that, but would you not?
And you don't know till you're in the moment.
Right, you don't know. People don't know. But most of the people don't go
saying it.
Try to shoot a bunch of fucking ATF agents, right? That doesn't happen very often. I mean, in the history of the United States, how many times have people gotten into a gunfight with a band of ATF agents? Not a lot.
Right. So the odds are against that it's going to happen.
Yeah, right. So like pretty fucking remote. And the idea that, like, do they send in undercover cops to? Why don't they send another undercover cop into one of these places that teaches the demolition experts for these giant buildings and have him talk some shit in there and see what happens? Because my opinion is you could do this basically anywhere and no one would take you seriously because, like, you just...
I think they don't want militias, and so
they're targeting
militias, and right. No, we don't want to go off on the government as far as shooting and all that kind of stuff. However, the reason that we have the Second Amendment and the reason that our founding fathers wanted us to have guns is not to protect us against each other, but protect us from the government if they got out of hand.
I mean, for sure, constitutional mandate, right? But at the same time, I don't really think that's you can't possibly think that that's a real solution, right? Like, there's no way that anyone's ever going to take control of the United States government through force. I mean, you got to be crazy.
It's not a practical option anymore. They've got much bigger guns, so to speak.
Right. We're a bunch of men with pitchforks. So you can't even possibly think that you're going to beat them like that. There's no argument for me that we're living in a tyranny and that tyranny is becoming more and more obvious to more and more people. But the path to beating them is to beat them on Wall Street. The path to beating them is to beat them at their own game. And the illusion of democracy is the only thing they've ever had that has managed to keep the people subdued. But once the people understand that they're living in an illusion of democracy, you're not going to keep winning. You're not going to keep tricking people. People aren't going to keep participating in your system. They're going to, as Buckminster Fuller said, create a better system that makes the old system obsolete. And that requires no violence at all.
And through non-compliance, like Gandhi did.
Right.
I mean, the British had bigger guns, even though there were millions of Indians, but through non-compliance, they got their way eventually.
Right, and they just refuse to participate
in their system.
Well, yeah, with them, but my opinion is take the war to Wall Street, take these guys, let's form corporations like Mondragon has done, and get yourself organized and be part of the solution instead of the problem.
Well, and become self-sufficient.
And
Again,
yeah.
that's
community
withdrawing
sufficient.
from their system. You know,
Right, that's
don't
right.
buy any products made by global corporations, and don't put money into that system. Create your own corporations that are more fair.
Support local
Grow
agriculture.
your own food.
Right.
All that
Or
kind of
buy
stuff.
it from local farmers.
Exactly. Support the grassroots movements.
And real people, and not oil barons, and not the ruling class.
Right. Not billionaires.
Real people. Support them directly. Find them and do without what you can't do, what you can't get. Toughen up and do without it, right? Because
Grow a pair.
yeah, grow a pair. Like, learn to fucking deal with a little hardship, and make a change in your world, right? So there's ways out there that we know, and we have to mention, as we always do, Convention of States, another phenomenal strategy to really take back and rein in the federal government's power through legitimate hard work, through using your voice, mate, through talking to your neighbors and saying things aren't right, and making that change with your local community, not with a fucking gun and 100 gallons of gasoline that you've got for your off-road vehicle for when the end of time comes. Like, what are you doing? You're just giving up. Like, my opinion is that most of these guys that have backed themselves into that corner, the big problem with most of these guys, and I've met a lot of them, so feel free to write me some hate comments in the messages below, because I challenge you, if you're one of these dudes, that your real problem is that you can't articulate what you feel, and you can't really communicate with other men in a way that feels respectful and to both parties, and really express your concerns for your community, for your family, for your river, whatever it is. And because of it, you end up making the conclusion that, like, for people old enough to remember it, the old Charlton Heston fucking line, right? Where Charlton Heston is the spokesman for the National Rifle Association. He says, "You'll pry this gun from my cold
dead hands."
dead hands," right? Well, yeah, that's exactly what they'll do, right? Because, like, you got a fucking pitchfork in your hand, and they've got a gun that shoots around
And at the
corners,
same time, there's nothing wrong with knowing how to protect yourself, because there could be other threats, like when times get tough, people come after your stored food and that kind of stuff.
Oh, I mean,
are you going to give it up and your family starve? I mean, these are individual choices.
No, that's a very good point. And I am certainly somebody too that says, hey, I mean, if somebody comes in your house at night and you feel like your life is in danger, by all means, like, I mean, thank you for your community service, and because you've just, how many other homes have you saved from the same terror?
It's one thing to sacrifice your own life and let somebody that comes to do harm kill you, but to me, where I get more brave is if they're going to kill my family members and that sort of thing. I'm certainly going to protect my children.
Oh, fuck yeah, right? Like that's it. I mean, so yeah, I'm all for having great arms. I really believe in it. I just think, first of all, bombs are a step too far, right? And that I would love to have the wife of this guy on to share her story, because I really do believe that they've destroyed this family, and I think he was sentenced to 20-something years in federal penitentiary for a thought crime, for a thing that never occurred and never could have occurred.
The guy who made the statement, or the guy who was teaching the class?
The guy who was teaching the class.
And what was he supposed to do?
He was supposed to immediately stop the course and call and report it to the police.
Okay, so again, the law, we need to decide on these laws, and they need to be very, very clear, and everybody needs to know what they are. Problem today is there's so many laws. People can be breaking laws and they don't even know they are.
Oh, most people, right.
But that's part of the thing of the Convention of States, is we take the power back from the government, who has too much power and it is overreaching its power, and we decide, what the laws are going to be. Maybe we whittle it down to the most important ones. We decide if we're going to pay for wars. We decide if we're going to allow them to be in Congress for their whole freaking lifetime, and we decide if we want to balance the budget, all that kind of stuff that normal people don't get to vote on.
And whether rich people get to continue to buy political seats.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Big one.
It's a constitutional way to do these things.
Yeah. So put the guns
There's
down.
almost 20 states now. We need 34. So this is gaining traction, and there are dedicated people who are out there all the time.
Yeah. So if you want to be a patriot, stop with this fatalistic bullshit, right? Stop with this whole insane idea that you've got where you're going to die where you make your stand, right? Which is exactly what's going to happen to you if you try to fucking get into a fight with the federal government with weapons. Jesus.
Yeah, nobody wins on that one.
You lose, dude. I don't know. You may make some political statement on your way out, I guess, but you could make a bigger statement. You could make a bigger impact by getting yourself involved in either the thing I advocate for, which is join a collectivist, or the thing that I'm equally inspired by that Jan continues to promote, which is this convention of states, because you could be on the road 24/7. You could be sleeping in your truck. You could be going farm to farm, talking to people about how important this is and how this is the moment to rein back in the federal government. You can make a difference, man. You can make a difference with you and your feet. Right? And a couple of sentences out of your mouth, because
it's the article in the Constitution that gave us a way out if Congress goes bad. So we have checks and balances if the president goes bad or the judicial system or whatever, but not if Congress. If the people who are supposed to be representing us aren't representing us, then this is the way that we change things. So there's a convention of states on YouTube. Check out a few of their videos. We did a podcast on it, and we're going to continue to do updates.
Yeah, really interesting, and something that we always have to circle back on, because there's so much going on there, and there's, if you haven't been inspired by this yet, and if you haven't really come to the place where you just see the change that you're able and that you have the power to make after a lifetime of thinking that you didn't have the power and you couldn't make change because they were too powerful. That's not the way it is anymore, man. And
drop the victim mentality. We need to
that's what the way
heroes.
It was. It's not the way it is, and you can change what's going to be, right? So please, it's have some hope.
Yep.
We're gonna do it.
Yep.
Right.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
And we appreciate the likes and the subscribes and even the comments, please.
Yeah, and I haven't gotten hate mail yet, and I feel like
looking forward to that.
I feel like I do. I mean, I'm pushing the envelope every week, right? Nobody.
Well, you want to see them get worse? All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.